Hey everyone, it's Lauren and Dalton, and today we are talking about the super interesting 5 mistakes that we have made since being business owners.
Since being in business.
Yeah, being in business.
We'll dive right in. Mistake number one. Mistake number one would be comparing our journey to others' journeys, not assuming how long they were in business.
Not knowing
all the
anything
other
about
factors,
their story.
just that Instagram trap,
Yeah.
that people fall into. And I was always cautious of it being intentional to not fall into it. But we also had mentioned like my brother-in-law and sister, and they were a few years ahead, and we thought that our Etsy would turn out exactly like theirs if we just did what they said, and it didn't at all.
Yeah.
It just farted the bucket.
Yeah.
And it took way longer, and so it was completely different and had to change, pivot, more forced into online branding. What else would you say with that?
I would just say from the shallow end of things, just looking at other businesses and trying to mimic their journey so that ours would look the same. And then it's like, we didn't know anything about their backstories, and you honestly don't know currently
Finances.
what their
You have
financial
no idea.
or struggle is like right now. So along with everything else on Instagram or social media, you only see what you see.
And I'll say the most, and this is a good one. The most compliments I've ever got in business was the worst one that I've ever had, and it was the construction one. The one that I ultimately ended up in bankruptcy over was the one that all of the congratulations came from that one. The ones most in the least amount is probably this one for me.
The least amount of compliments.
The least amount of compliments. People
don't even sometimes know you're in this. Yeah.
And so, and they have no idea, like even in this town, they don't know that we're here.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important. I'm like, you do well and do well for yourself. You never know how people are doing. There's a lot of people now knowing it, doing business for the last 13, 14 years. I can kind of tell, you see rapid expansion, and you're like, gosh, I just wish, you don't know the credit, debt, not everybody is. I don't want to take anything away from them, but you'll never know. And so you don't know the help, whatever it was. And so mainly if you're making any money and you made it sell, I would take the very fact that you were able to create something and produce it and someone wanted to trade their money for your product. That is the first win. And you have to be focused on those wins, and those inputs as you're slowly growing. And so it's completely okay for it to look different. Just be like excited about the wins along the way. And that sounds cliche, but that is exactly what you have to do to stay mentally strong through the whole process.
To survive it. And I would also say find someone, you don't want to compare your journey, but you also want to find someone who's 3 to 5 steps ahead of you to help you, give you advice, but you have to figure out what advice is going to work for what you're doing and what advice you have to throw out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Mistake number 2.
Mistake number 2. We cut back too often thinking it was mistakes and not consumer behavior.
Mistake number 2, we cut back too often. And that one is where basically in the first 3 to 4 years, of Mountain Moverz, it's hard to establish a pattern. And so e-commerce still is, online e-commerce is relatively new. And so it's been the last 20 something years that it's really been popular and taken off. So to have a ton of data, to have a true ton of data from it and historical data of what it looks like is hard, especially through COVID, where it changed buying behaviors throughout every industry, from restaurants, DoorDash, online sales growing, and then people wanting to go back to the market, how Facebook ads, everything, it keeps switching and evolving. But we were always thinking, me running ads and stuff, that it was like, I found something. Never being able to realize that the correlation was the actual seasons. And then one of my pro tips would be that we kind of do now, follow the big brands, like big brands. And they almost are, I call it the Groundhog Day effect, because whenever they say that winter's over, winter's over. Whenever they start pushing the summer clothes, whenever they start pushing the winter clothes, that is what they are going to have a bigger market share.
They dictate the season.
They dictate
before
the
it
seasons
comes here.
Because all of them will launch like now. They've all launched spring and resort back when it was still cold. We're naturally thinking, well, we're not really. It's not time yet. Let's do it. Next about like March, April. But they push it, and you better hop on, because that's going to make all the consumers head that way. And so realizing that it wasn't our fault what we ended up doing was cutting back in ad spend, cutting everything back, and then if you almost had to rebuild the company to a certain level for 3 years. We dropped it back, and then we pulled it up again, dropped it back, pulled it up again. And then the last couple of years, we decided we know what was happening, we know the lower times, and we pushed through those.
Ride it out type of mentality. Yeah. Number 3, jewelry.
Number 3, jewelry. And jewelry was one that was more of that was your passion. So
that was what we started. What was our mistake that we made with jewelry?
The biggest mistake is again, it would fall somewhat with comparing because of the mass production. The largest company on Etsy, the largest business, is a jewelry business, and they do not sell. We thought that everyone would love the quality, and we picked this weird middle mix, which is kind of our thing, where it wasn't gold plated and it wasn't gold. It was gold filled.
Wasn't the lowest quality, wasn't the highest quality. It's right in the middle.
So it's going to last, and we to have the ability to push that brand, we did pretty good, like to push that message of the brand, like here's this market quality you're getting. We're not, paparazzi stuff. We're not little costume jewelry, and it's not real gold. But the margins were still, it continued to grow. Gold is volatile, and especially right now, it was so expensive. We focused on I said, if I could pinpoint it, it would be we focused on that gross sale more than the margin. That would be it.
That's our mistake.
That was our mistake with jewelry, because it would be, $150 sale, but your margin didn't compare to, apparel.
Yeah.
And so that was the problem is we looked back and we were like, we're spending how much? And we had been rolling around, and then I went and met with a friend of mine, like mentor, business mentor. Shout out to Michael Crafton.
We love you, Michael.
Love you, Michael. And he went through the numbers, and then it was helpful again with what you're saying, somebody ahead of you, someone that had exited for quite a bit of money and was able to look at it and say, I'd focus on apparel.
Yeah.
So that was our mistake.
Yeah. Number 4, I think we're at, tried to control the market with t-shirts. So once we saw that our t-shirts were
it rolled into the next mistake.
Big bangers, our best of the best. We were like, we're pushing t-shirts all year round.
Only sell t-shirts.
Screw
sweatshirts and hoodies.
And then October or September rolled around, and we got shot in the foot, both feet, and the head, hands, arms, all the limbs, because people wanted their sweatshirts.
Yeah. And
we weren't prepared.
We
thought we could throw some flannels onto the t-shirts, throw some jean jackets, style them in a way to make them still attractive, which is true. They are an attractive piece of clothing that does last you through all the seasons. But when women are ready for sweatshirts, they are ready for their sweatshirts. There's nothing stopping them between them and their oversized hoodies and crew necks.
And you can winterize t-shirts as much as you want, and it's not going to push them.
It's not going to be as attractive and delicious as a nice oversized sweatshirt. So that was a mistake that we made that one year, that it was really rough during the fall and winter, because we were like, why aren't people wanting our t-shirts? You can just throw a jacket on over them.
Yeah, we're making fun designs with them.
Yeah.
And that, I think that you just can't, again, with that one would be, we thought that we, could control that side of it, that we could push, that we could advertise enough. We do pretty well with our advertising and the way that we're going to push the, our market share, the way that we feel like that we have control on it, but we had to pivot
pushed as much as we could, but we had to pivot and change if we wanted to make some money. Number 5 mistake that we made was not getting the correct licensing for some of our designs. That was on me. I'm literally just a girl looking at a shirt saying, this is cute, let's put it out there, and only to find out that we needed some legal licensing for some of these things, and that got us in some poo-poo.
But luckily I have been in stuff like that, different stuff before. I'm like that it wasn't the end of the world, and so we were able to manage it, settle it, come back from it.
Yeah.
And so you also, though, in the middle of this, a caveat to that would be, you're going to get a bunch of people there is popular designs. And so we deal with all the time that someone would think, a lot of shirts are going to be similar. And so to get someone that doesn't even sell apparel, but literally we've gotten the strangest, somebody like their sixth grader drew it in school. So they think that was their thing. And I'm like, we don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, this is a design that, you know, that we've had that, like, you take smiley face era and craze or bow. And I'm like, good luck.
You can only do so many things.
That was my bow. I took a pic. It's like, those are frustrating.
Yeah.
This one was more legit, and we did handle it. And it does all of those things that you go through, even with this one, like with that T-shirt one. You figure out different ways. And so if it doesn't just crush you, you know, or kill you, you know, with that, it really will make you stronger if you figure out a different way. Because the next year we came back and had a totally different, you know, approach to the way that we were going to handle it.
Yeah.
And so same thing with this. Like, we handled it differently.
Yeah.
Like, we were dependent on some of it. We were thankful for some of the sales, and then you realize that you're going to overcome it.
You got to pivot. You got to find something else to fill in that gap where that was. But overall, we did it. We learned from our mistakes, and we're going to keep learning from our mistakes.
We'll keep learning.
Because I'm sure we're going to make more.
Yeah.
But those are definitely 5 that stood out to us over the past few years.
All right, guys. But as you can see, we are still here. So through the mistakes, through the trials, we're still here. If you're starting a small business, you can too. If you want to support our small business, please like and subscribe. Follow us along with the journey. We're going to be here to stay with more podcasts to come. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.